Good evening. Today is October 9th, and you're watching the Manila Times News Prime. Our top story: the Independent Commission for Infrastructure, or ICI, will not be limited to auditing and investigating the DPWH and the alleged anomalous flood control projects. It will also probe the infrastructure initiatives of other agencies. These include the so-called haunted hospitals of the Health Department and the alleged overpriced farm-to-market roads of the Agriculture Department. Also to be investigated is the case of the classrooms constructed through the DepEd. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro says all questionable infrastructure can be investigated by the ICI. Meanwhile, Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon orders the strict monitoring of all national bridges. He issued the directive following incidents of collapsing bridges across the country. The latest was this week's collapse of the Pittagan Bridge in Alcala, Cagayan. Dizon noted that the collapse of the bridge was not only due to overloading, but also because of poor maintenance. He says the structure was built 45 years ago, but it was only retrofitted in 2016. The Public Works Chief also stressed the need for the strict enforcement of load limit on all bridges. He noted that many of the old national bridges were designed for 18 to 20 ton capacity, while loaded trucks nowadays have an estimated weight of 50 to 100 tons. In other developments, Acting Chief Justice Marvic Leonen is urging newly sworn Ombudsman Jesus Crispin Remulla to lead the fight against corruption with courage and creativity. Remulla took his oath before Leonen at the Supreme Court Justice Hall in Manila. In his message during the ceremony, Leonen said accountability from public officers is fundamental to public trust. Leonen encouraged the new ombudsman to identify systemic weaknesses and discover the breaches of integrity. President Marcos appointed Remulla as the 7th ombudsman, succeeding Samuel Martires. Remulla served as Justice Secretary before his appointment as head of the anti-graft body. In news overseas, Israel and Hamas have agreed on a Gaza ceasefire deal. This is a major step towards ending a war that has killed tens of thousands and sparked a humanitarian crisis. Under the agreement, Israel will release hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. In exchange, living Israeli hostages will be freed. This is just the first phase of the deal. Aid will later be poured into Gaza after more than 2 years of war started by the Hamas attack on Israel 2 years ago. U.S. President Trump says Washington will play a role in helping rebuild war-torn Gaza as well as keeping it safe and peaceful. Aside from the ceasefire and the release of hostages, Trump's plan called for the disarmament of Hamas and a gradual Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. And finally, the Commission on Filipinos Overseas, or CFO, has launched its newly redesigned website. The website is now integrated into the eGovPH super app. CFO Secretary Dante Clinc-Ang II says this is in line with the government's effort to enhance digital accessibility for Filipinos worldwide. He says Filipinos overseas are now just a few taps away from the vital information and services they need. For more news and information, read the Manila Times on print, subscribe to its digital edition, or log on to www.manilatimes.net. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, and LinkedIn, and be part of our communities on Viber, Telegram, WhatsApp, and Mastodon. That's all for now on the Manila Times News Prime. Remember to stay safe, stay informed, and stay connected. I'm Michael Ang. Good night.